It's quite hard when you're in Indian. Your parents are not quite open to the idea of visual effects. We feel the courses now, I know everything in Nuke, fine, I can go ahead with it and try to get a job in the industry. But it doesn't work that way. Everything changes as per the plate. You know the techniques, but then when it comes to actually putting down on what you're doing, it really comes down to understanding the shot itself. Don't get scared when you get the feedback because you're going to do that 4 to 5 times a day. You're going to get feedback 4 to 5 times. So you have to get used to that.
Hi, so welcome to VFX Artist Podcast. This week we have Rishabh Laheja, who is a junior compositor at MPC. And I've been talking to Rishabh for quite a while, actually. We've been chatting on the chat from before you started. So, yeah, you've come a long way in actually quite a short time. So I thought it was quite an exciting story. Was it a year ago?
It is. I actually started at MPC a year ago.
Okay, and so before that, probably like a few months before that, maybe, you got in touch with your showreel, which was personal projects, and then we
Yeah,
had a chat, and I think it was me and some other artists you contacted,
quite a few, yes.
um, and then you got some feedback, and then you put a reel together, and now you're working on you've just recently worked on House of Dragons. Rather than me telling the story, let's let you tell the story.
It's a roller coaster ride. You might want to buckle up. There's a tipping point for every artist, like some movie or some film or TV series that got us inspired to get into visual effects. And for me, this was right around February of 2020 when I was watching 1917. I think before that, I did want to come into VFX. Things that inspired me was Game of Thrones and Avengers Endgames, but I didn't quite like decide, okay, I'm going for visual effects. But it was for some reason I was watching 1917. It was a late night film. I was alone. I was coming back home. It was traffic. For some reason, it was raining in February. I don't know. It just made a whole, it just got dramatized or something like that. And and I was like, I want to do visual effects. And before that, I was doing a bit of animation, but I wasn't quite good at animation. I had done a few courses, but not that well. But I was like, okay, I want to go into visual effects, and I didn't know how to get started. I didn't know how to find because there wasn't quite enough at that time. I mean, there was, but like not on my search engine. So like, I didn't have any clue of how do I begin. And the pandemic came around at that time. It was a bad period for everyone. I agree, it was for me as well, but it was in a way a boon in disguise. And I started to look at all the different aspects of VFX. And then compositing was something that interested me the most because it's you're working on the final shot, you're working on everything that you receive from other departments. And I thought, okay, this sounds interesting, and maybe this is something I want to do. The shots of 1917 was like, that's where I was like, okay, compositing it is, and confirmed, this is what I'm doing. Now I need to find how do I get above with it. So that's exactly when I started talking to people on LinkedIn, that quite early actually, to understand how should I get about started with this industry. And I think the first person who I spoke to, and I remember it, was Josh Parks. He still is like my role model, like always has been. And uh, there were quite other few people as well that I communicated with, and I decided to start with courses. So the initial courses that I did was FX PhD. It has plethora of courses, not just for compositing, but like Blender and Maya and even Unreal now. Like I've seen their latest upcoming ones. So that's where I started. I took a subscription of FX PhD for a month or two, and there's where I understood the basics of Nuke and how I'm going to use the interface. How do I do the basics of Roto and Paint is what I learned from it. Most of tracking and stuff. And then I did another course. Then I did Josh's course, which is the monster course and the green screen and the deep one. And it's really a good course. Like even today, when I'm at work and I'm jumping, like suppose I'm on a show that had a lot of green screen, and now I'm moving on a show on CG. I really use those courses to brush up. So in a way, it's like a good pocket handy thing. You could just always go back to and refer. And his courses are really tailored well. So definitely recommend those courses for anyone who's going to try it because it's so handy, it's so short, and it's so well explained that I still refer it, even after a year or two, I still refer it. And then I started to get in touch with Josh, and I couldn't do the 101 because it was quite expensive for me. So I started to network with quite more people on LinkedIn, and then I came across this person, Keagan Harris. He runs a Patreon. You subscribe for the Patreon, and then you can do one-on-one with him, and you can also do the plates that he provides, or he also has short videos and stuff. I'm very thankful. Today everything I am is because of Keagan and another compositor, Marseille, from Germany. So what I used to do was I learned these courses, right? But that's not it. Like, we feel the courses now, I know everything in Nuke, it's fine, I can go ahead with it and try to get a job in the industry. But it doesn't work that way. It's not like other industries. You really have to have a reel ready to, in the creative industry, you need the reel. And now I was thinking, how do I get about started with this reel thing? Like, what kind of shots should I do? How do I approach and stuff? So it's actually when I started thinking about doing the personal projects, uh, it it's when I realized that courses is not enough. You have to, every project, you will use different techniques to do this. You are trying to do something, you are going to do this, like say you want to do king, but then everything changes as per the plate. And that's the interesting thing about VFX. Like, the techniques, but then when it comes to actually putting down on what you're doing, it really comes down to understanding the shot itself and the plate and everything around that. So this is where I did the one-on-ones with Keagan. I used to meet him on the weekends. So on the weekend, I used to have a call with him. He used to explain me, okay, tell me an idea that you have for a shot. Okay, then I would tell him the idea of a shot, and we used to take the shot from the idea to the final execution of it, like the final shot. So we used to plan the whole process, like what are you planning to do, what kind of CGs are you trying to look for. And then I used to look for plates. I used to search plates online where I can find good plates, good CGs. And I did quite a bit of lighting as well. I asked him to teach me lighting as well because I didn't know that. And I did need CG for doing some CG integration shots. So for lighting, he taught me lighting as well, and he taught me compositing. And we used to do it like, so on the weekends we would do the call. We would decide a plan of how we're going to go about the shot. During the week, I used to work on the shot after my work hours. I was working in another industry, and I didn't like my job.
What were you? Can I ask what you were doing?
I was Ernest and Young. I was working in the IT and consulting side of things. And so after the 8, 9, 10 hours of that work, and then I used to sit through the night for working on my shots. So it was really like a grind that I went through. But it was exciting because that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to get
Exactly.
into that. So I put in the extra efforts and I sat late nights. And the reason I did late nights is because that would be like an evening or afternoon in London. So when I'm doing a call with him on the weekends, and we used to even work weekends sometimes. So I would sit after 8 and I'm working on my shots, and then I'm getting on a call with him and all. So during the week, I used to work on the shot and send it to him on SyncSketch. SyncSketch came like very handy when it came to getting feedbacks. And when I was doing my personal projects in the beginning, I used SyncSketch a lot to send it to people. Now that I have a reel, I send the reel. But when I wanted to get my each shot reviewed, I would use SyncSketch.
Yeah, we still use it actually with some clients as a
Really?
facility. So it's
Uh,
quite it's a useful
it's
tool.
yeah, it's quite useful. Yeah. So I would use SyncSketch and I would send it to him and he would do the annotations on it, and I used to work on the shot during the week, and on the weekend I used to show it to him. And then that's how I went on building shots by shot. And then once I had a collation of a few shots, I used to make a reel and then send it to people on LinkedIn and try to get more feedback. A diverse feedback helps in understanding the kind of shot. Different views on how to do a shot, and it's so
Mm.
great to know everyone's perspective. Everybody has a different perspective on that shot, and then the ideas that come in, and then I would try to see, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And that's how I went on building the shot. And then Marcel was the other mentor I found myself on LinkedIn. So with him as well, I used to do this on the weekends. So like two mentors. And then I started joining this London Siggraph event, which was Bring Your Own Composite. it was so great because I met quite a lot of people on that and got feedback from quite a lot of people.
Do you remember
And
who reviewed your shots? Do you remember
oh,
who
I'm
reviewed
going
your
to tell you
shots?
that. I'm going to tell you that. So what I used to do, I used to know who other guests are coming, okay? And I always wanted to get it reviewed by Josh and Chris Fry. I used to do. So they on the event during the event, they'll send you a Google form and they'll say, okay, choose your mentors. And I already always had it written on a sticky note on the side. So I would just copy paste Josh Fox, Chris Fry, and then cross fingers. And then they used to put us in the break room with the mentor, and always used to be Josh and Chris. So it was so great. Like I wanted them, and because I couldn't do Josh's one-on-one, so I used to always try and chase him. Um, every time I got, yeah, I used to chase him on LinkedIn. I used to chase him on the London Siggraph, bring your own comp. This thing I used to chase Chris Fryer on that, and then I used to write back on LinkedIn to them like, okay, you gave me feedback on the shot, and I have worked on it. And then I used to like I used to take sync sketch and they used to annotate on it on the during the event. So we had 1 hour with each mentor. Actually, 1 hour. It's supposed to be 15 to 20 minutes, but it went on for 1 hour sometimes. And then even I think you might be knowing this person, Katerina from
She's fantastic. She's
one
a
of
really
us.
good
Yeah.
composer.
So
Yes,
she
brilliant.
was the third one I used to get in touch with. I think I always wanted to get in touch with Jamie, but never happened. And then I think these three were like the main people I used to get in touch with. Um, so yeah, that. And so I used to work on the feedback from these Siggraph and I think I attended 7 of these. Bring your own comms. I think by now the count is 7 of how many I've attended. So it was a great place to network with people. It was a great place to get feedback. Highly recommend for anyone who's starting out to try and get into these events and try to get feedback. And then yeah, that's how I kept building real, kept on networking with people on LinkedIn, and then I made a good friend who's a roto prep artist on LinkedIn, and then he and I did this freelance work for a client in UK. So that was another exciting thing to do it, a
An actual
project with
job.
someone. Yeah, yeah. I did quite a
This,
few, like I think two freelance works in the UK. Uh,
yeah, this. If you were wondering why I was distracted, I was totally. But my daughter put my cat in, so she decided to be on the show with you today. So you got an actual project, a live project, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
different
the
from a personal
freelance
project
work.
because now you had a client.
Yeah, so for a short film, like in the UK, so we did it remotely, and so he was the roto prep artist, John William, and I was the compositor, and he used to send me the rotor shot, the rotors that he did for each shot, and so that's how I got a hang of how the things are supposed to be done, and even Sync Sketch gave a hang of how the RV is used, like when I got into the industry, I got quite comfortable with it. After all of that. And yeah, I think I did the freelance work for quite a few months. And then, oh yeah, my plans were always, because it was not working out, like for so many months I was trying to get into the industry and was not working out. And I had planned for a Bournemouth University, UK, and I had an admit. And I got COVID the same month when
No.
I was supposed to pay the deposit. I got COVID, so the plans scrapped, but I had, and that's the same month I had an interview with MPC. So it was like maybe it was meant to be. Who knows? It was a kind referral, I will say. Like it was a kind referral because of why I got MPC. That's how I began at MPC. And the good thing at MPC was I was first put on a show which was 2D. So and I think we were doing tracking ourselves on those shots. So it was a good practice to like get my basics cleared. Like I did a lot of paint work and tracking in Roto and basics of keying and a lot of warping and stuff. And then I was put on a show which was CG. So I felt like I'm going in it's a learning curve, like
Yes, it's a good project progression.
it was a progression for sure, yeah. And then my third project was so the CG one was the Prehistoric Planet, and then the third one was House of Dragons, which was both together. Like we had a lot of keying, and then we had a lot of CG. So yeah, it was like a combined. combined thing. It's fun.
These are very good first projects, I've got to say. I mean, you're very lucky with your first projects. Very big projects, very cool
Yeah.
projects, and some good shots as well. So, I mean, and also before you did House of Dragons, and I think before you did Prehistoric Planet, you actually posted a dragon personal project that you
Yes,
did,
yes. So that
which
that
got a
was
good.
so that was the so I was participating for the Rookie Awards of 2022, and I knew this was the last time I can do it because the criteria said that you have to do it within 1 year of being in the industry. So I was like, okay, this time I'm going to do personal projects for it. I did two personal projects to finish for the rookies. Again, the same thing, going on Sing Sketch, running to Bjork, chasing Josh, chasing Chris Fryer. This time I also chased this guy, Javier. Very nice guy, like he's from Canada. He
Hmm.
helped me throughout my rookies thing because we were doing this dragon shot. So for dragon shot again, the idea and execution, from idea to execution, Keagan. For reviews, Marcel, Chris Fryer, Josh, and this time Javier. And that's how I finished my rookies thing. And I did not expect so yeah, another interesting thing about the anime dragon thing. It was a friend of mine from Germany who's an animator, and he was interviewing for Pixamondo for House of Dragons, and he told me, I need to have a dragon shot for my reel because I'm interviewing for. I was like, okay, fine, maybe you animate a dragon and I'll comp it. And he said, okay, fine, let's do this because he was my friend from when I was doing the animation course, so we were in touch this time, and we are in touch from quite a long time. And I told him, let's do this, let's do a collaborative project. And he got a job at Pixamondo, and he worked on House of Dragons. And because of the dragon shot that I put on, because he insisted me to post it on LinkedIn, so I said, okay, fine, let's do this. I posted on LinkedIn, and even I think it was just a 12-day gap after which even I got put on House of Dragons. So it was so exciting. Like I did not expect that to happen, but yeah, that's how it went. Like some things are
No,
like,
that's
yeah.
something's meant to be, and you put the effort in. I mean, it's quite good to have a personal project that's quite targeted to a show that's up and coming.
I didn't expect. I didn't know at the time that MPC had House of Dragons coming up, and like I had really no idea about it. I was just like, my concentration was just to get one personal project done. But then things worked out magically. Someone at MPC might have noticed, and they decided maybe it was my heads. I don't know, but yeah, I got to
That's very
work on
cool.
House of Dragons. Yeah.
So, where are you based in India? Out of
I'm
curiosity.
based in Mumbai.
Mumbai. So
Yes.
obviously, the most of the work is either in Mumbai or Bangalore. Generally, I think for at least for the outsourced stuff that we do.
I think Bangalore is where MPC was always there, but they're opening an office in Mumbai soon. And I think, I mean, I reckon, I'm not quite sure, but Mumbai might become like an epicenter for VFX because if you see after 2020, I think Frame Store opened in Mumbai, Outpost has opened in Mumbai, Folks VFX has opened in Mumbai, ILM is opening in Mumbai. They announced it on Diwali. And then there's MPC opening, so I think Mumbai might have a boom of VFX studios.
Mm. So
There's
you were
DNAG.
working
There's DNAG
remotely.
in it. Yeah, I'm working
So
remotely.
you were
Yes.
working remotely via Bangalore before.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
right? You
I'm
were working
still
for
working
MPC Bangalore.
remotely because they haven't opened the office in Mumbai. So I requested for a transfer. So I didn't want to go to the Bangalore office, and I requested for a transfer for Mumbai, and I got it. So working from
That's
home,
good.
yes. Yeah.
Because they're not near. I looked on a
They're
map
not
when you
near.
mentioned this.
No, no,
They're
no, no. They're not near. I
not-
would have had to fly and stay there. Like I can't even travel.
I mean, these distances are pretty big. I mean, I think if you went that far in England, you'd be in another country for sure. Um,
Yeah.
my cat has got I think she got a mouse, and so my daughter came and locked her in our room, and now we have a mouse. We have all the animals on this show. We have dragons, we have cats, and
And we have
we
mouse
have
now.
we have a mouse, which is now going to be taken out into the wild.
You have a
No,
cat and a mouse, or the mouse is
no,
something that you
I
just caught?
she caught the mouse, and I
Oh,
think I'm afraid to say that I thought it was a
oh
mouse that was
no.
going to be freed, but I think it's actually a dead mouse. It's a very sad moment for the VFX Artist podcast. Let me shut the door. Dragons, mice, cats. I guess what you're working on now is on NDA. Is there anything
It,
else that you've worked on recently that is out of NDA that you can talk about?
well, I'm working now. I'm not sure if I can say, but it is my first film.
Very cool, very cool. You're working remotely, and so remote work has continued after the initial lockdowns, and you're working remotely full time. Is that generally normal, or is it just in cases
No,
like
I
yours
think
where you're not near
when
the office?
no, when they're going to open the office in Mumbai, I'm sure it's going to be back to office for everyone. For anyone who's working
Yeah.
in, for anyone who's not taken a transfer for Mumbai and they are allotted for the Bangalore one, they had to return. Like, there's no hybrid either. It's strictly work from office. And I think quite a few
I
studios
see.
are
I
doing
see.
that. They're not offering hybrid as far as I know. Uh, there are a few
Mm.
who have not opened up yet. Like, I think, as far as I know, Outpost is not opened physically, so you're working remotely if you're working for Outpost. And I think even DNEG is offering remotely for quite some time. But otherwise, they're calling you back to the studio.
The other thing I thought was quite interesting is you didn't actually do roto prep for very long, actually, because
No,
within one
I
year you're already compositing. So that's I thought I was curious about that because I
No, I joined as a compositor. Yes, it was
yes.
a yeah. I joined as a compositor, and but on the show I had to do roto sometimes when it was like urgent client need, and we can't send it to the the roto department. I think on House of Dragons also quite a few shots I had to end up doing roto because there was like no time to send it back. So on House of Dragons as well, I did a lot of manual roto, and yeah, so it was like the shot was not roto entirely, so it was like roto required in that shot.
But that's again different because rotoing for your own shots,
Yeah,
and you don't have to roto everything. As a compositor, you know what you need to roto.
yeah,
If you have to roto for someone else, you often have to roto a lot more, right?
a lot
Because
more.
you're
Yeah,
not exactly sure what they need, so you
even
have
you
to
have
kind
to
of roto
roto
everything.
more than the cut, right? Like
Yeah.
in that case, yeah.
So I mean, but that's because initially when obviously Hollywood and big studios began outsourcing to India, the first work was I guess the grunt work, the match move and the roto and the prep.
Yes, a lot of that is
But
still
it's
prominent. Like there's a lot
yeah,
of roto and prep that comes into India. Lots.
but it's quite exciting that there's quite high end comp happening there as well.
I think the industry is just going to keep growing in India. So like, because it's like cheap labor for the whole bid thing, right? So a lot of shots comes in, like a lot of them, and the crew is also big. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's insane.
crews are very big. Yeah, I mean, and potentially
Yeah.
can be huge. Can you tell me about what sort of hours do you do normally?
So it's actually project based. Like sometimes if the project is London facing, so you will have the meetings with. So we're always having cross-site meetings with London or Montreal, and if your project has London facing, then it's going to be like you're going to show the shots to London in the afternoon. And if it's Montreal facing, you're going to show it in the evening. So for every project, the timings are going to change based on the supervisor over there. But otherwise, it's any which way is insane. Like because you are working quite before you have to show a version to London, and you have to get it approved by your leads in India itself, and then you're showing a version to the UK supervisor, and after that you're working on the shot again once you get the call notes. So it's like you're working before that call and you're working after that call. Same for Montreal. Like even though it's like a 6:37, so sometimes the meeting goes on till 7:38, but you're still working after
Yeah.
that.
So you would be expected to do most of the call notes for the next day for that same evening, essentially after the call.
Sometimes, I mean, on this project, which we're doing, it's a bit light towards like at this point of time. I've had good, comfortable team. I've had a very good lead. I'm having a very good lead on this show, and it's been a different environment recently. Even the work hours are like fine. As I said, it's project based. Sometimes it's crazy
Yeah.
and sometimes it's lenient. But when the deadline comes, it's crazy anyways. Like when you're closer to the end of the show, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And there's no OT pay. That's I think It's not in UK either, I
No,
suppose.
although most companies in the UK have what they call time off in lieu. So essentially, you won't get extra hours you do, but if you, for example, come in on a Saturday, or if you do work sort of late into the night, you could potentially get extra days off that you can use after
But you
the.
get it for your OT of the during the week as well?
You can do it.
If you do late nights on
It
a week.
depends on the company. It depends on the company. It does
Okay.
vary by company. It's never exactly that, but often sometimes it's more formalized. You get this amount for these specific times. Sometimes it's very much you kind of ask. Um, especially smaller places, much more of a sort of, well, I worked late last night, but today I need to go and pick up my kids from school or whatever, and you can do things like that, but you can't necessarily like build up extra days off unless you work, for example, a Saturday or a Sunday. But
Right.
it's not a standard. There's a general expectation that there will be time off in lieu, but it's not actually it's not always in every contract, so it varies.
Right. We do OT a lot sometimes.
Mm.
For this project, somehow OT has not been that much, which is why I'm like surprised. This project is like really good. I'm quite happy. It's coming to an end, but then this has been the only different one. Otherwise, it has been
Mm.
insane. Um, and on many projects, it's insane work hours. So nothing you can do about it
No,
because a lot of work comes in. So
I'm going to go back even further now. So, before
okay,
you,
okay,
like you say, you actually went to college and you studied something completely different, but did you always have an
yes.
interest in this kind of creative work?
Oh yeah, so I was always I was creative even back when I was in the 11th and 12th. I used to write comic books when I was in I think when I was in the 10th standard or the 11th one I started writing comic books. So I always had this storytelling side of me that I was always interested in, and I used to hand draw them with a pen. Like I never needed the need for erasing it. I don't know. Everyone asked me, why do you draw it with a pen? And I was like, I just got quite comfortable with it. And I used to write these comic books, which are like 100 or 200 pages or something. It was like my hobby. So I knew I had the creative side in me, but I didn't know exactly for what. And whenever I used to watch movies, I was always fascinated by it. I was always like, someday I want to do this, but I didn't know what the right path was. And it's quite hard when you're in Indian. Your parents are not quite open to the idea of visual effects, and it's not that known either. Even today, even though there's a big amount of people working in VFX in India, still it's not the most appreciated project, appreciated line by the parents. So I yeah, I didn't know exactly how to get into it, but I always had that desire. Then when I was in college and I was doing computer science, and I was introduced to this subject, computer graphics, and I quite liked it because it was like little animations that we were doing in it through coding, and I was like I was interested in it. And during the end of college, you have to finish your final year project. And everybody did machine learning or crypto or something or the other. But I ended up doing making a game. And first, I began with Unity. But towards the end, I moved to Unreal. I think I spent 2 to 3 months on that. And because I think something happened in Unity and it was not like we were not able to finish it, so we jumped into Unreal and did a project. And I finished the project, and I was displaying the project on the in this science exhibition, like the exhibition that was held in college for all the final year projects, whatever you're doing. And there was a selection criteria, and mine was a different one, so they added the games. There was one thing I observed when I was presenting my game. Nobody was interested to see or play the game. Everybody was interested in the trailer that I made for the game. Like I made a starting trailer before the game started. Like and you could like I think you could click escape and just skip the trailer, but nobody wanted to skip the trailer. Everybody liked those dolly animations of the camera that I did, and the audio syncing with the shots that I was doing, and that made me think this is something I like. That was all in
All in
Unreal,
Unreal, yeah.
yeah. there's a, I don't quite remember now.
Sequencer.
There was this sequence. See, yeah, yeah. I think Unreal has changed quite a lot after COVID. Like the version 5 was. I was using Unreal Engine 4, so I have to see how Unreal Engine 5 is. I haven't seen it yet, but during Unreal Engine 4, it was more game related, and after that, they brought it all with visual effects and stuff. So yeah, I made the game, and I saw everybody was interested in the trailer, and people asked, "Oh, you could do this trailer better," because I didn't have that much of time for the trailer because I was focusing more on the game. But I saw people were focusing more on seeing the trailer, and they kept asking me how you did that. So maybe that was another. That was actually the point I realized I want to learn animation. I enrolled for an with an animation guy again in the UK. So, and I did like for 4 months animation with him, but animation was tough. Like, I hats off to animators. Like, you guys are creating magic. It's really tough. I tried so much, but it's really creative. And then I did this. It was this forum. That's where I met this animator friend of mine.
And it's interesting that even though animation for you didn't work out, it was a lucky contact, right? Because then that led to these collaborations, and that that
Yes.
has helped your
So
career in other
even,
ways.
even the raptor shot, I think the raptor shot that you saw on my personal projects was also animated by him. It was one of his raptor run cycles, and I said, let's comp it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
It was,
So you were also at one point, I know it was, I think COVID possibly put a spanner in the works, but at one point you were planning on getting a camera and doing some of your own filming. What were you planning to do?
yes, I haven't done that yet. Maybe when I have a better salary or
Yeah.
something. I wanted to buy. I think I contacted you like a few months back, and I was like, I want to buy one, but maybe next year. Like, maybe that's one of my resolutions I'll keep for next year: buying a camera and learning that.
It's a luxury, but it is good for compositors to have some understanding of photography. But
I mean, when
it's
it comes to like understanding when you need a lens flare or when you need there's, I mean, I really do want to learn camera for understanding it, like being a good compositor. Like it's the stages that I want to grow in. So definitely getting a camera and learning that is the next aim that I have, the next goal. So, and it was like I wanted to buy it for my birthday, which was in July, and I think even last July I thought about it, but never happened. So maybe next year, hopefully,
Yeah, well,
hopefully
it's good
sooner.
luck. No, but I mean, your career seems to be moving forward, so who knows? I'm sure you'll be able to get yourself a camera. What kind of projects would you like to work on moving forward?
Well, House of Dragons was definitely a dream project that came true. Maybe like Marvel or Star Wars, I don't know.
But are we talking films? You would like to move into to stay in feature film? I know you said you've recently worked on a feature film.
Yeah, films and TV series is what I would
Yeah.
like to continue to remain in. That, yeah.
One other thing I was going to ask is obviously we talk a lot about India regarding the outsourcing, but there have been some recent films like RRR. I'm not sure if you're, and
Yes.
that had a
I
massive
have not seen it
success.
yet.
And it's quite interesting that there are
Yes.
these Indian productions which are now, getting this reputation, and they're not just executing Hollywood or outsourced work, but they're actually creating some movies which are which people want to watch.
There is quite a potential. Yeah, there is quite a potential. I think Tollywood is doing well when it comes to VFX, and I think even Brahmastra was another film that was of Bollywood, which was heavily relied on VFX. I haven't seen either of those. I'm so sorry. I don't have views on that. But yeah, it's the industry in India is moving forward, not just when it comes to foreign companies coming in, but also the films that are being made here are realizing the need of visual effects.
Yeah. So obviously you've been working with a lot of London-based mentors, and you're working with supervisors in London and Mumbai, London and Montreal. And how are you finding that? Are you? What are they saying about where you're working? How do they, when you describe your experiences at work, do they find it comparable, or what things do you think are probably different?
So I think it's quite a different culture here. We don't speak to our supervisors directly.
Right.
We never have, like most of the times. I think during one show, I think when I was beginning and I spoke to one of the supervisors from London during the end of one of our projects, and he didn't know me because, like I said, we never speak to our supervisors. He did say, it was good to hear from someone from Bangalore team. I've never spoken to you people. He said that because how it works here is when you're doing the dailies, it's mostly the leads communicating with the supervisors over there. And project wise, it depends. On certain projects, you're allowed to attend these calls, but you're on mute. You're not
Right.
talking to anyone. So when your shot comes up, you're not directly speaking with the supervisor. You're just hearing it and noting down the points that he's pointing out. I mean, what he's pointing out. And on some shows, you don't attend the call at all. So you will either look at the annotations that you received, or you will look at the recording of what the conversation between the lead and soup has been. So I think I've never been in touch with any of my supervisors because of that. Because it doesn't work that way. You are not, and there are quite a few people working on from this end. So that's why they decide only the leads speaking
So
with the
it's quite
supervisors.
hierarchical. You speak with your direct superior, and then they
Yeah.
speak with the next person up, and then they speak with the next person up.
Yes.
There's
It's quite
there's an
hierarchical.
element of
Yes.
that everywhere, but yeah, there is a little bit more leeway in terms of speaking directly to the supervisor and
I
attending
have heard
dailies.
in the UK from quite a few people that they speak
Yeah.
directly with their soups, but here I've never done that.
No, that's interesting. And also,
It's
another
different here.
thing I've realized is your entire career has been remote. Is that right?
So far,
Yeah.
yes.
It's just the timing of it is quite unusual because something that was almost unprecedented and lots of people found difficult to adapt.
And I would definitely say it was difficult. Beginning as a junior compositor at MPC, right after, like it's quite different than your personal projects. It's quite fast paced, and you're so we have dailies like 4 to 5 times a day, so it was quite taxing in the beginning, and I will say the first 5 months it was very difficult, and it was even difficult to communicate with people. I used to still communicate with people on LinkedIn to ask how am I supposed to do certain stuff, because here it was difficult to ask around. Like I said, hierarchy. There's even hierarchy between the artists, so not everyone is open to helping. Um, Sometimes they just leave you on read. Like when you're working remotely, this is something that happens. Everybody's so busy
Mm.
with their own shots, and deliveries are so fast that you're trying to communicate, but it's difficult. And then I would end up like just looking at the scripts and doing it on my own. So the first 5 months was definitely very difficult, and um, somehow I have managed through remote working. But yeah, it's
So you have
difficult.
dailies 4 times a day. So that's quite a lot. I mean, I've most projects I've worked on we have. I mean, the most I've had
Just
is
like
two a
uh,
morning and an afternoon dailies, and
I
and desk
exactly that's
reviews.
what in the U. I've heard in the UK it's like twice a day. Uh,
And twice a
but
day,
here it's like you have a
yeah, twice a day is actually often sort of getting towards sort of the end of a project as it gets more intense. Often it's like once, it can be like dailies, once a day. I mean, we have desk reviews at any time where your lead or supervisor will actually just review a shot. If you're in the office, they just walk past. If you're remote, then you would, maybe on a one-on-one call, but or you just call them regarding a note that you're unsure about. But yeah, so you're having to produce updates for each dailies.
it's very fast paced. Like you'll not be working on one shot. You'll be assigned like more than
Hmm.
one, say two, three, sometimes even four shots, and then you are working on it in the morning dailies. You get a brief of each shot that you're supposed to do. So it's like morning at 9:30 a.m. You have the morning brief, and then around 12 you have to show a version, or some projects they expect you to show a version by 2. So let's take one example of one
Hmm.
project where it was, I think I had to show a version at 12, then I had to also show another version by 2:33, and then we used to have the London call at 3:30. Then after that we show a version at 5:30 based on the notes we took from the London call, and again at 5:30 we're showing it to our Indian lead. and then again we are showing a version at around 7:30 or 8 or 9 depending on whatever notes he's given, and that's your EOD version. So it's 5 versions a day.
Right. Okay, 5 updates a day. That's quite, yeah, that's quite intensive. I mean, it's quite common in
It is intense.
advertising to be that sort of pace, really. But it's quite interesting
Okay.
for film. And although I would say that the first dailies you talk about, to me, that sounds more like what we would call rounds. So they're coming and they're
The
giving you a
brief.
brief. Yeah, you're not necessarily showing
Yeah.
something. So yeah, but yeah,
Sometimes
it's still a
what
lot.
happens is if the brief is a sometimes what happens is if we got notes from UK or Montreal or whatever over the night, some of us will start working on the shot immediately at 9 a.m. and some of them tend to show it by 9:30 or 10 whenever the dailies are. So sometimes it's a brief for you, and sometimes you have a version and you're showing that in the morning.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, depending on whether you already had
Yeah.
a shot or not. Yeah, of course.
For this project currently, we have the brief a bit later. So I tend to sometimes do this. Like I'll just come in and I'll look on whatever shot I was assigned for during the week. If on any of those I got an annotation or any notes from abroad. And if I did, and if it's manageable for me to do, I'll just begin with it. And if I can show a version in the morning brief, I will. Otherwise, I'll just say, I've already started working on the shot, and do you have notes for me? Or do you want me to show you a version in this call? Just share screen and show you a version, and that's also fine. So, yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you're getting I mean, you're getting actually really good results out of this. So, I mean, I can't really argue with some of the methodology here if it's working. I wanted to kind of conclude with what would your advice be to someone in India now who's looking to move into VFX if they're having this idea, whether they're studying or whether they're like yourself in a different job.
Well, it is a hard industry to get in. I will not deny that. But you have to put in the efforts. I will definitely recommend getting on LinkedIn, communicating with people, getting reviews, uh, putting your shots on Sync Sketch, getting reviews on your personal projects, improving on those reviews, not just like you got feedback and then you did nothing about it. You have to keep working on the shot. You have to show the feedback that you worked on. Maybe get back to the same
Mm.
person. They like it that you worked on it and you've gotten back. And keep working on your personal projects and keep applying. I know it's insane and there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of public in India, so it gets difficult during the hiring procedure. But keep doing, working hard on that. Keep learning. Keep communicating, getting feedback. Attend these Bring Your Own Comp by London Siggraph. It's very good. Like you're getting, like, I think the first one that I attended and I got such massive notes. I remember that was the point I was like,
Yeah.
ah, you know that the face where you're like, I've been doing this for so long, but I never expected that I would get so much of feedback. And that was, I think, I don't know. It was not Josh, the first one on my London Seagraph one. It was some Owen Barack Carroll from Framestore, and I think he's a supervisor now at Framestore. So definitely, like, if he's a supervisor now, it means he would have been a very good lead or senior comper. So massive notes, and definitely I would recommend getting in touch with these people on LinkedIn, London Seagraph. Keep working on your shots. Um, keep you can post it on LinkedIn. I used to not quite post it on LinkedIn, but I used to at least message and get feedback. Don't get scared. Be humble.
Mm.
Don't have an ego. This field does not appreciate it. I don't know why there's not much help that comes around in India when I'm trying, and uh, but but I've seen, like, I have to appreciate the fact that when I speak to people abroad, there's always help there. So what I mean to say is, people should be helpful here as well. I don't know why I never got that, and it is hard, but help each other. I mean, what's there to lose? And don't lose the big picture. Like, if you are, I know many people try and fail and then they just give up on the industry, and that's fine. But you have to keep trying and always have the bigger picture in your mind. There's always been a tipping point for us to start in this industry, right? Some movie or some series that we watched and we wanted to get into it. So if you really want to get into it, you have to put in the hard work. Don't get scared when you get the feedback, because you're going to do that 4 to 5 times a day. You're going to get feedback 4 to 5 times. So you have to get used to that and find yourself a mentor. I would really say that, because it makes a big difference when you have someone when you have someone one to one. So you have a role model to look up to. You have someone who you can ask how you, because you can take feedback from quite a lot of people, right? But if you are finding yourself one mentor, then you are very well he's very well concentrating on your development. You're very well concentrating on your development as well, and you are working on your shots. Like, I mean, I'm nothing today if it wasn't for Keagan or Marcel or Josh. I had to chase these people, and I had to get feedback. I had to get reviews. I had to learn through them, and I did it because I wanted to. So you have that fighting spirit. Have that chase them. It's fine. They're not going to get angry or something. Maybe don't annoy them over and over, but chase them. Get in touch. I think Keegan does one to one as well. Now I'm not sure about that, but Josh does one to one, I'm sure. Get in touch with Josh, get in touch with Keegan, get in touch with Marcel if you want to get in touch with the ones I know of. So it would be these three mainly. Chris Fryer, and just keep learning, keep improving, uh, and yeah, keep trying.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Rishabh. And we'll definitely get back in touch and see how your career progresses in the future. So thank you so much
Sure,
for your
yeah.
time. And if anyone has any questions for Rishabh, please post them in the comments.